Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube page so that you can get caught up on all of our content. Follow us on all of our social media pages and listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. We had our first London game of the season from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with the Minnesota Vikings defeating the Cleveland Browns on a game-winning touchdown. The Vikings were without their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. Carson Wentz started in his place. Aaron Jones, the running back, was out. Jordan Mason started in his place. And they were starting a rookie left guard, a third-string center. Their starting center, former perennial Pro Bowler Ryan Kelly, was out. Their Pro Bowl right tackle, Brian O'Neill, was out. Back up in there was School, who we start a couple games at left tackle to begin the season. As their left tackle came back from injury, and he's now playing, fortunately. They also had a backup right guard out there. Defensively, they're without their all-pro outside linebacker, Andrew Van Ginkel, as well as oft-injured inside linebacker, Brian Cashman. On the Browns side of things, they started 6 rookies, Nelson. They had a rookie starting quarterback, a starting rookie running back. They started 2 tight ends, the former Pro Bowler from a couple years ago, David Njoku, and a rookie. Their starting wide receivers, opposite the Pro Bowler Jerry Jeudy, was another rookie. Fortunately, that offensive line was intact. We saw the very oft-injured Jack Conklin start at right tackle in play, so that was a good sign. And on defense, they had a rookie defensive tackle and a rookie inside linebacker. I mean, that's nuts. You just don't see that often. What were your takeaways from the game?
So this game, yeah, as you mentioned, a lot of rookies starting for the Browns. Dylan Gabriel being the most notable. I'll touch on him in a few minutes here, or a few seconds, excuse me. And Minnesota, I mean, same Minnesota team we saw last week practically. And Minnesota just trying to steady the ship. Ultimately, as you did say, Minnesota did win the game. But if you're a Viking fan, you may not be so confident in that because Dylan Gabriel, for his start, he had for a first game rookie, I thought he did fairly well. He had some moments where, okay, of course, he made some rookie reads and, otherwise, I don't want to say invalid plays, but hey, it's a rookie. But there have been some other plays in the game where it's like, dang, that's either really good coaching or that's really good intellect. And he had a phenomenal throw to Njoku, if you recall, against within 3. This is how close of a window this was. The safety, linebacker, and nickel. And he threw that right on the good spot in between all 3 of them. Njoku gets a touchdown. And before you know it, now the Browns are up 14 to, I believe, 7 at the time. And it was just remarkable to see him play with such gutsy and moxiness, as I kind of stated. That's how he did in college. He did the same thing in this game. I think where the Browns kind of, I want to say, they stubbed their toe a little bit was with Stefanski. I don't understand Stefanski's play calling towards the second half. I thought he could have been a little bit more aggressive against that Minnesota Vikings defensive attack and blitz that we know that they're going to throw at him. They got rather conservative with some of those pass plays. They looked a little bit out of sync, more so than the first half. I mean, it was just, it made you scratch your head. Even the commentators were talking about it too. Now, granted, we did have the Browns, for the most part, have control of this game until the very, very end. Their defense they finally cracked, and, the Vikings went down, scored a touchdown on a beautiful throw from Wentz all the way to Addison, right at the pylon. It was a beautiful, beautiful throw. But if you're looking at the box score, you look at the box score and you say, this looked like an even matchup, but realistically speaking, if you watch the game, as you were stating earlier in the NCAA callouts, the Browns were the better team throughout the game. Realistically, the only reason why these Vikings won is because their wide receivers simply made more plays. Honest to God. If not, literally the Browns should have won this game. They should have won in London, but they didn't. And if not, honestly, if you could take one positive note as a Browns fan base, Dylan Gabriel, at least against a defense like the Minnesota Vikings, he impressed you a little bit. And maybe hopefully he can keep doing that down the road as every game comes. Any game takes from you?
Yeah, of course. It is worth noting for the Vikings, Jordan Addison did not start the game and did not play in the first quarter. He did play in the second quarter, but limited snaps, did not have a catch in the first half. And on defense, their veteran, six-time Pro Bowl and former first-team All-Pro safety Harrison Smith did not start and played limited snaps. And I noted all the injuries up front. The Browns are healthy. I know they're playing a lot of rookies, and they're the Browns. But the Vikings kind of needed to catch some breaks with how banged up they are. And obviously, the Jordan Addison thing was their own decision. Harrison Smith is a bit banged up, but he's playing, so that was their decision as well. And he had started previous games, so something's up there. But that's a whole other thing that maybe we can discuss another time, maybe even after the season.
Uh-huh.
But with those limitations on the Vikings side of things, that being said, with what we saw on the field, I agree with you. The Browns should have won this game. It was a typical Browns loss, and they made some mistakes at the end that cost them. And look, they got the fumble early on. They got the touchdown out of it, and they looked good on that drive. The Vikings immediately responded and scored a touchdown, and that was really the only scoring we saw in the first half. And you just sit there. I mean, that's the Browns' defense is so good all half, except for the one time when they had just taken the lead and gotten the touchdown. They allowed them to immediately tie it. You have to give the Browns credit because the Vikings came out in the second half and drove it right down the field for a touchdown. The Browns responded immediately. So it was a good back-and-forth game. It was pretty entertaining, but you're right. It was the mistakes at the end from the Browns. They had a personal foul penalty. They had a couple mistakes there. They wound up punting the ball in the end zone for a touchback. I mean, it just came down to field position, and those happened over a string of multiple drives over the course of the second half. After we saw them exchange touchdowns to begin the half, the defenses locked in again and really dominated the game the rest of the way until the end. And so throughout those possessions, the Browns are making these mistakes and costing field position. They should have, at the end of the game, had the Vikings far more backed up than what they were, and that may have put their defense in position to be able to prevent them from having that game-winning touchdown drive. But that's what happened. You mentioned it. Justin Jefferson was tremendous, as always. And then Jordan Addison, I believe, at the final 3 catches on that touchdown drive, including the touchdown, the game-winning touchdown for the 2017 win. So you're right. Immensely impressive performances from them. In terms of Dylan Gabriel, I hate how we just sit there and go, well, for a rookie, he had a good performance. Dude, it's an NFL game. I don't want to hear that. Carson Wentz completely outplayed him. It was night and day difference. Carson Wentz was so much better, and Carson Wentz is the ultimate journeyman quarterback. We're not sitting here like this is a superstar that he just got outplayed by. I don't care if you're a rookie, because the reality is you were thrust into duty because you're supposed to be better than Joe Flacco, and I'm not convinced Joe Flacco wouldn't have played better than that. We'll never know. I could easily be wrong. I'm not saying that he would have, definitively. I'm saying I'm not convinced. It's not a guarantee that he would not have played better than what we saw from Dylan Gabriel. I was not impressed with Dylan Gabriel. I wasn't. He had a good performance. It was a far cry from a great performance. I don't think Carson Wentz had a great performance, and he completely outplayed Dylan Gabriel. And in a lot of ways, I think the game came down to that. And I think some of the weapons for the Browns looked pretty good. I thought Quinshon Judkins, the rookie running back, looked tremendous at times. I think his offensive line let him down a lot. That left tackle position for the Browns is a disaster. I mean, it's a mess. It's just awful. And the center position isn't exactly great either. The guards are great. They have been for a long time. The right tackle, Jack Conklin, actually playing is great. Has been for a long time. The rare occasions he's healthy. And so it's disappointing to see that. We saw multiple big runs from Quinshon Judkins called back for penalties, which, to be fair, he probably only sprung those because of the penalties. But oftentimes he came right back and hit another big run anyway, and he was doing that throughout the game when he didn't have to bounce back from a penalty. And they weren't throwing the ball down the field, despite the fact that they have Jerry Jeudy. They have David Njoku. They have these rookies who look like they could be talented, and they're thrusting into duty and trying to say the future is now. We have a bright future. Let's see what we can do with these guys, get them developed, and set ourselves up for success. And they gave the game away with mistakes. Plain and simple, it's mistakes. You're calling out Kevin Stefanski. That's coaching. These mistakes weren't made by rookies. They were made by players who have been around, who have been there, have done it, have played in the NFL for multiple years, and they're going out and making stupid mistakes that cost you field position and at the end cost you the game. I mean, they had a sack on Carson Wentz in that final drive and still allowed them to overcome that and go down and score the game-winning touchdown from a defense that, for the most part, had dominated the game. They gave up the one touchdown drive in the first half, and they give up the one touchdown drive on the opening drive of the second half, and then they had shut them down the rest of the way. And all the other drives in the first half, they shut them down. And there were a lot. We saw a lot of possessions because these were quick drives because the defenses were so good. You can't just collapse at the end of the game like that, and you can't have all of the mistakes leading up to that from both the offense and the defense that put yourselves in position for that to happen. It's the little things. This is the National Football League. Games are close. You can't have that. Sorry, Nelson. I had to rant a little bit there. What do you have? I can see you have something else.
Yeah, I do. I have something to counter you just as well. I mean, I get the frustrations that you have with Dylan Gabriel, but let me explain the frustrations that I think this is a result of Stefanski. Stefanski, we know he's the West Coast guy. West Coast, we know that they want to get the ball out quick, pass first, and then the run later. That's how it's always been. And I thought that Stefanski in the second half, he abandoned the run. I thought he got into his head. I thought that he did not help out Gabriel. I mean, you are throwing Gabriel a little bit under the bus when you're expecting him to, for what, 33 attempts? I mean, I get it. Gabriel may have an arm, may have a little bit of a cannon of an arm. I mean, again, to be able to fit that ball in between three defenders is pretty good. But still, when you're able to get 32 carries for 140 yards, I mean, still you're moving that defensive front. And that's one way to set the team up for play action. And I feel that he did not do enough of giving Gabriel big play ability. And that's on Stefanski. And I think that's the problem with Stefanski that a lot of Browns fans can say totally that Stefanski is the problem. It's been the coaching. It doesn't matter who has been their OC there beforehand. It doesn't matter if Freddie Kitchens was there beforehand when Baker Mayfield was there. It doesn't matter when shoot, I can't remember the other OC that was there too in the second half of Mayfield's career. It doesn't matter. The same thing happens over and over under Stefanski. Stefanski is the problem, and he has been. And if his seat isn't blazing fire like another coach down in Miami's, I don't know what is. Because for your defense to give you that kind of effort the entirety of the game and you to not help out your defense and to totally win this game, because you should have won this game, that is a failure on the head coach. Failure. Absolute failure.
Nelson, this franchise, this iteration of the Browns, the original Browns date back to 1946, but they moved to Baltimore in 1996 and became the Ravens, which that franchise in Baltimore is now its 30th season. But this version of the Browns, 4 years later after that, they were not in the league for 3 years, 96, 97, 98, came into existence in 1999. So we've seen it primarily in this millennium. From 1999 until 2019, their first 21 years as this iteration of the Cleveland Browns, they had two winning seasons and made the playoffs once when they had one of the biggest collapses in NFL history against their arch rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and lost in the wild card round. Kevin Stefanski has taken them to the playoffs twice in a 4 year span in 2020 and 2023. It's so shocking he accomplished that. He was the NFL's Coach of the Year on both occasions. And in both instances, they did that despite significant injuries to multiple of their star players, especially the time a couple years ago when they accomplished it. I mean, and they won a playoff game in 2020 in Pittsburgh. So he has accomplished what no one else for the Browns was able to do for over 2 decades. He deserves a ton of credit for that. It's fair, maybe the past couple years he deserves some criticism, but that organization is incredibly poorly run. It's not his fault that Deshaun Watson debacle has occurred. Maybe Deshaun Watson's play is part of the problem with him, but if Deshaun Watson didn't fit that system and Kevin Stefanski was the coach and you're a guy, why was he brought in and paid all that money in the first place? It is not on Kevin Stefanski that this organization has failed. Maybe Kevin Stefanski is not a great coach and doesn't deserve to be a head coach in the NFL. Maybe not even an offensive coordinator or in college either. Who knows? But to put the full blame on him for an organization that has failed and their entire time in the more than a quarter century now they have been in existence as this iteration of the Browns is absurd. That's not on him. It's on the organization from the top down. His failures may play a part in it the past couple of years, but he has worked wonders for them, and the fans should be on their knees thanking him for the actual limited success they've been able to have compared to the no success they had prior to him. I am not with you on that at all. That's
Oh
absurd.
well,
Your
I'll
specific
leave it.
points may be fair, but
I'll leave it on my last comment. But I think we're going to be disagreeing to agree a lot on this. It's for me just like what happened, and we'll get to this game later on in another episode. There are players that somehow make what a coach is. I'm not going to name the other game, but in this relevance that I was talking about, You had the first overall draft pick, which sure, Stefanski you can blame, the front office you can also blame as well. That's a granted because we know what Baker has been doing for the league ever since he left the Browns.
What?
And
He sucked at every stop until he got where he is now in
but
Tampa.
yeah, look, yeah, but to unfortunately, Chris, look at his potential to what he has now when he evolved with Liam Cohen, the right coaching, right, and the right place to be able to
He
be
was
what
good
he
the
is
year
today.
before Liam Cohen was there. This is his
Huh?
third offensive coordinator in 3 years in Tampa Bay. He's been great for all three. He didn't suddenly become good last year. He suddenly became
Okay,
good 2 years ago.
okay, but you're making my point, which is coaching should develop the player to be what he is. So,
I
in other
agree.
words, Baker was not the ultimate potential under Stefanski. And when I say that, even Baker at his level might have been 80 out of 100. But then you also had an all pro running back in Nick Chubb with an
Yeah.
all pro offensive line.
Yeah.
So that alone may have covered what you were just talking about. Because normally the Cleveland Browns don't have that much talent per se on the offense, period. Normally they don't, but they have. And Stefanski, maybe to his credit, we don't know if it's the GM or the owner. We don't know. They got some of the talent from the draft, obviously, but some of those players also kind of might have disguised all that could have been going off the rails, if you will, if it wasn't for that kind of talent walking through the door. Because now we're seeing with all the mess that has been the front office and now all the less talent that is there, good coaches, even if they have less talent, they try to find a way to keep the ship upright no matter what. And unfortunately, with Stefanski, I mean, this game, when we talked about this game and this game only, we might have gone off subject and talked about deep into what the Browns are. But in this game and this game only, he failed to win this game. He had every opportunity in the book to win this game, and he failed to do so with the limited amount of talent that he had, even though they might have outplayed them. That's my rant.
All right. I don't see it that way. So you're right. We'll have to. I hate this saying, but we'll have to agree to disagree.
Yeah.
But hey, guys, that's why we call it the first and final word. And that's what this has been for Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. We'll see y'all next time.